Good evening. So, this is day 5 of holding myself accountable and growing my faith. So, I am reading from a couple of different devotionals, and then I'm going through the Bible. So, today is January the 5th, and in the Mr. and Mrs. devotional that my hubby gave me on my birthday, which was also during our honeymoon, January 5th says, "Better together as it is, there are many parts, but one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you, and the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you." That's 1 Corinthians 12, 20, and 21. The prayer for today is, Lord, thank you for making us unique. Show us how to love and help each other with our gifts. So the little message in here says, all believers have unique gifts, passions, and abilities to share with others. Joined together, a fully functioning spiritual family is formed. In the same way, a husband and wife unite their different strengths in marriage. The cliche that opposites attract proved true. We fall in love with qualities distinct from our own. The shy introvert enjoys his outgoing girlfriend and brings him out of his shell. The free spirit respects the reliable, detail-oriented approach of her fiancé. Discovering how we fit is exciting. We feel complete as we join our lives together. Just as God builds a body with uniquely gifted believers, He builds a family through the strength of each member. Rather than resenting what sets you apart, celebrate each other as God's creation. Ask Him to reveal His plan for serving Him and each other. Love and depend on each other today. I love that. That's so sweet. So, better together, 1 Corinthians 12, 20, and 21. That is for January the 5th. And today is the 5th. And then on the 1 Minute with Women of the Bible devotional by Elizabeth George. I can't remember who gave me this, but it was gifted to me. I think it was one of my former students' parents. Day 5 is about Sarai or Sarah. Believing One More Time is the title, and the scripture is from Genesis 11:30. Sarai was barren, she had no child. Sarai was barren, she had no child. 7 words, a simple statement of cold hard fact. Perhaps Sarai, whom God later called Sarah, wondered, what's gone wrong? What have I done? Why hasn't God blessed me with children? On and on her questioning went, and so did her pain. Nothing could relieve it, soothe it, take it away. Childlessness was a stigma that seared deeply into her soul with each childless sunrise. So Sarah was the wife of Abram, who was later named Abraham by God, and she was Sarai, and she became Sarah. And she was barren for many years, but God promised Abraham and Sarah a child in their old age. I believe he was 100 and she was 90 or something like that. But the baby was a long time coming. With aching heart and stinging tears, Sarah trusted God one more time for one more day over and over. Despite a few setbacks, Sarah learned that faith. Instead of giving up, succumbing to bitterness, lashing out at others, turning her back on God, giving into the contentious spirit, and manipulating the situation is the best way to face the distress of life. Despite. For 11 years, she grabbed onto God's promise that more than 4,000 faith reaches. That's what that is. More than 4,000 faith reaches. Then God's promise was fulfilled and Isaac was born. Oh, how Abraham and Sarah may have rejoiced. Faith, like physical muscle, is developed and strengthened with use. Each time you trust God as you face seemingly unbearable, unusual, and changeable circumstances, your faith increases. What difficult issue are you facing today? Reach out to God one more time. Turn toward the unknown, the unseen, the eternal, and watch your faith grow. So, I do know a little bit about the story of Sarai and Sarah. It says in Genesis 11, that's when it talks about her being barren. And God made a promise to Abram or to Abraham and said, that he was going to give them children. And they were elderly, pretty much. In today's standards, they were 190. She was 90. So I know later on, God makes that promise to Abraham that they're going to have children. But even though she had faith, she did have faith, it didn't come at her time, the when she wanted, you know. So I wonder, knowing, because there was a whole thing with her servant Hagar and trying to control the situation, that Hagar had a son with Abraham. And she then still had held on to that, but there was so much resentment and control, trying to control the situation. So I think the message for me today from this is that God's timing is perfect. Our timing, our wants, our desires, the things we pray for, we cannot control. We try to control and things happen that shouldn't, probably. Or you do something you shouldn't a lot of times. So we need to have a faith, an unbelievable faith, and believe that God's promises will come, but it's according to his time and not yours, not mine. So I think that's the message for today, for that. And I'm going to hold on to that promise and know that God's timing and my faith are equally important, meaning that I need to have complete faith in God's timing. Yeah, I love that. And we'll definitely find out more about Sarah and Abraham later, for sure. So today, let's see where I'm reading today. I'm following also this Bible recap for kids. I have the full set of the adults, but for new believers, I wanted to, have a younger perspective, so that way there's a better understanding, maybe. So day 5 is Job 6-9. And in here it says that, what are people that you should make so much of us that you should think of us so often? That's Job 7:17. So Job, yesterday we were talking about Job, and Job lost so much. He lost his children, his wealth, all of his animals, but yet he still kept his faith. And even as his friends came and accused him of being a sinner, that's why God was punishing him in some way, he said, no, I may be heartbroken, I may wonder why this is happening, but God's infinite power is what's important here. And so Job reminds his friends that God spread out the heavens and moved the mountains and does great things too marvelous to understand. And so we're not going to question why this happened, but we're going to have faith, and we're going to still believe that God's timing is everything, I believe. So down here for the God shot, it says God is infinitely powerful, and he's also personally close. Job reminds his friends that God spreads out heavens in 9:8 and moves the mountains in 9:5 and does great things too marvelous to understand in 9:10. And Job also marvels in 7:17 that the same all-powerful God comes close to us. God is big enough to create the entire universe and caring enough to want to be close to us. He is our joy. So his friends kept saying, you had to have caused this. And he just says, even his wife challenged him and said, how can you not be upset? I mean, she lost her children too and lost everything. But he's like, nope, God knows better than us all. So let's read Job 6-9. I need to find it in the Bible because I didn't already have it open to Job 6:9. Job 1, 2, 3. Job 6. So yesterday his three friends are trying to say, you must have done something. There must have been some kind of sin for this to happen to you. And Job 6 is talking about Job's second speech, a response to Eliphaz. Then Job spoke again. If my misery could be weighed and my troubles be put on the scales, they would outweigh all the sands of the sea. That is why I spoke impulsively. For the Almighty has struck me down with his arrows. Their poison infects my spirit. God's terrors are lined up against me. Don't I have a right to complain? Don't wild donkeys bray when they find no grass and oxen bellow when they have no food? Don't people complain about unsalted foods or unsalted food? Does anyone want the tasteless white of an egg? My appetite disappears when I look at it. I gag at the thought of eating it. Oh, and that I might have my request, that God would grant my desire. I wish he would crush me. I wish he would reach out his hand and kill me. At least I can take comfort in this. Despite the pain, I have not denied the word of the Holy One, but I don't have the strength to endure. I have nothing to live for. Do I have the strength of a stone? Is my body made of bronze? No, I'm utterly helpless, without any chance of success. One should be kind to a fainting friend, but you accuse me without any fear of the Almighty. My brothers, you have proved as unreliable as a seasonal brook that overflows its banks in the spring, when it is swollen with ice and melting snow. But when the hot weather arrives, the water disappears, the brook vanishes in the heat. The caravans turn aside to be refreshed, but there is nothing to drink, so they die. The caravans from Tema search for this water. The travelers from Sheba hope to find it. They count on it, but are disappointed. When they arrive, their hopes are dashed. You too have given no help. You have seen my calamity, and you are afraid. But why? Have I ever asked you for a gift? Have I begged for anything of yours for myself? Have I asked you to rescue me from my enemies or to save me from ruthless people? Teach me, and I will keep quiet. Show me what I have done wrong. Honest words can be painful, but what do your criticisms amount to? Do you think your words are convincing? When you disregard my cry of desperation, you would even send an orphan into slavery or sell a friend. Look at me. What would I lie to your face? Stop assuming my guilt, for I have done no wrong. Do you think I'm lying? Don't I know the difference between right and wrong? Wow. So it continues. This is 7, Job 7. Is not all human life a struggle? Our lives are like that of a hired hand, like a worker who longs for the shade, like a servant waiting to be paid. I too have been assigned months of futility, long and weary nights of misery. Lying in bed, I think, when will it be morning? But the night drags on and I toss till dawn. My body is covered with maggots and scabs. My skin breaks open, oozing with pus. Job cries out to God. My days fly faster than a weaver's shuttle. They end without hope. This is Job 7:7. Oh God, remember that my life is but a breath and I will never again feel happiness. You see me now, but not for long. You will look for me, but I will be gone. Just as a cloud dissipates and vanishes, those who die will not come back. They are gone forever from this home, never to be seen again. I cannot keep from speaking. I must express my anguish. My bitter soul must complain. And am I a sea monster or a dragon that you must place me under guard? I think my bed will comfort me and sleep will ease my misery. But then you shatter me with the dreams and terrify me with visions. I would rather be strangled, rather die than suffer like this. I hate my life and don't want to go on living. Oh, leave me alone for my few remaining days. What are people that you should make so much of this, that you should think of us so often? For you examine us every morning and test us every moment. Why won't you leave me alone, at least long enough for me to swallow? If I have sinned, what have I done to you, O watcher of all humanity? Why make me your target? Am I a burden to you? Why not just forgive my sin and take away my guilt? For soon I will lie down in the dust and die. When you look for me, I will be gone. Wow. So to me, that sounds a lot of maybe Job feeling sorry for himself, just not understanding his difficulties. Um, he refers to God as a watcher or observer of the humanity, but God created him. He's still not rebuking him, but he thinks he's about to die. Maybe he thinks since all these things are stacking up against him and now he's oozing with pus and all that, that he is going to die. So maybe he's going to die soon. You know, when I first read this, the first time I read it, I started thinking, oh my gosh, he says he's going to die. I was wondering, like, is he going to commit suicide? Like, because I didn't know the story of Job. And, you know, a lot of reading and rereading the Bible each year, I believe, and studying, reflecting on it, I believe helps you to, or helps me to remember some of the details because, you know, when you're reading this big old book, I'm not one that remembers all the details. And I pray that I'm going to grasp onto the details that are most important for God, for God, that he wants me to understand. So that's one of my prayers. So Job 8, this is Bildad's first response to Job. Then Bildad the Shuhite replied to Job, how long will you go on like this? You sound like a blustering wind. Does God twist justice? Does the Almighty twist what is right? Your children must have sinned against him, so their punishment was well deserved. But if you pray to God and seek the favor of the Almighty, and if you are pure and live with integrity, he will surely rise up and restore your happy home. And though you started with little, you will end with much. Just ask the previous generation. Pay attention to the experience of our ancestors. For we were born but yesterday and know nothing. Our days on earth are as fleeting as shadows, but those who came before us will teach you. They will teach you the wisdom of old. Can papyrus reeds grow tall without a marsh? Can marsh grass flourish without water? While they are still flowering, not ready to be cut, they begin to wither more quickly than grass. The same happened to all who forget God. The hope of the godless evaporate. Their confidence hangs by a thread. They are leaning on a spider's web. They cling to their home for security, but it won't last. They try to hold it tight, but it will not endure. The godless seem like a lush plant growing in the sunshine, its branches spreading across the garden. Its roots grow down through a pile of stones. It takes hold on a bed of rocks. But when it is uprooted, it is as though it never existed. That's the end of its life, and others spring up from the earth to replace it. But look, God will not reject a person of integrity, nor will he lend a hand to the wicked. He will once again fill your mouth with laughter and your lips with shouts of joy. Those who hate you will be clothed with shame, and the home of the wicked will be destroyed. Job 9, this is Job's third speech, a response to Bildad. Then Job spoke again. Yes, I know all this is true in principle, but how can a person be declared innocent in God's sight? Can't speak straight today. If someone wanted to take God to court, would it be possible to answer him without once in 1,000 times? For God is so wise and so mighty, who has ever challenged him successfully? Without warning, he moves the mountains, overturning them in his anger. He shakes the earth from its place, and its foundations tremble. If he commands it, the sun won't rise and the stars won't shine. He alone has spread out the heavens and marches on the waves of the sea. He made all of the stars, the Bear and Orion, the Pleiades and the constellations of the southern sky. He does great things too marvelous to understand. He performs countless miracles. Yet when he comes near, I cannot see him. When he moves by, I do not see him. If he snatches someone in death, who can stop him? Who dares to ask, what are you doing? And God does not restrain his anger. Even the monsters of the sea are crushed beneath his feet. So who am I that I should try to answer God or even reason with him? Even if I were right, I would have no defense. I could only plead for mercy. And even if I summoned him and he responded, I'm not sure he would listen to me. For he attacks me with a storm and repeatedly wounds me without cause. He will not let me catch my breath, but fills me instead with bitter sorrows. If it's a question of strength, he's strong one. If it's a matter of justice, who dares to summon him to court? Though I am innocent, my own mouth would pronounce me guilty. Though I am blameless, it would prove me wicked. I am innocent, but it makes no difference to me. I despise my life. Innocent or wicked is all the same to God. That's why I say he destroys both the blameless and the wicked. When a plague sweeps through, he laughs at the death of the innocent. The whole earth is in the hands of the wicked, and God blinds the eyes of the judges. If he's not the one who does it, who is? My life passes more swiftly than a runner. It flees away without a glimpse of happiness. It disappears like a swift papyrus boat, like a eagle swooping down on its prey. If I decided to forget my complaints, to put away my sad face and be cheerful, I would still dread all the pain, for I know you will not find me innocent. O God, whatever happens, I will be found guilty. So what is the use of trying? Even if I were to wash myself with soap and clean my hands with lye, you would plunge me into the muddy ditch, and my own filthy clothes would hate me. God is not mortal like me, so I cannot argue with him or take him to trial. If only there was a mediator between us, someone who could bring us together. The mediator could make God stop beating me, and I would no longer live in terror of his punishment. Then I could speak to him without fear, but I cannot do that in my own strength. And that is the end of Job 9. So it says here that the book of Job is intimately tied to the New Testament because Job's questions and problems are answered perfectly in Jesus Christ. So, and then there's answers by Jesus for some of the things that are in here, like someone must help us approach God, which is Job 9, 32 and 33. Let me go back to that, 32 and 33. God is not a mortal like me, so I cannot argue with him or take him to trial. If only there was a mediator between us, someone who could bring us together. So, Job 9, 32 and 33, it says someone must help us approach God, and it is answered by Jesus in 1 Timothy 2:5. So I find that there are scriptures here that will help show the answers to a lot of what Job is saying here. And let me see, are there any other features in this? There is a few people in history experienced the kind of tragedy that crushed Job. He lost everything. His children were killed. His possessions and wealth were taken. His wife turned her back on him, and his health was broken, all in a matter of days. And so this is talking about Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. So upon learning his difficulties, some of his friends came to help. But they were shocked the way they found Job. They wept for him. They tore their clothes and put dust in their heads to show their sorrow. Then they sat in silence with him for 7 days. And then, this is talking more about them. So I will go and read this. But, I think the most important thing so far with us reading about Job, he says he's without sin, but we are all with sin. We could say that he was probably one of the more faithful servants of God. But, I do find areas here where I'm reading where, he's saying, woe is me, and I just want to die. I don't want to deal with this pain of all the suffering. So, but he doesn't rebuke God. He doesn't turn his back on God. He is still a faithful servant of God. So I think those are some of the things that we could take from this. And I do like that he did have friends that showed up and they sat with him, even though they feel like he's to blame in some way. Down at the bottom, it says, friendship and grief requires patience. Friends in need don't have to have all their questions answered as much as they need to have someone listen. Some questions are so deep that their best response is silence. So make it a point to be with those in pain, but let your physical presence be your strongest statement of support. Pray for patience. When in doubt about a question, wait, sit quietly, and be the best friend you can during difficult times. So that is something we can definitely take from this, is that just like his friends came and they sat with him for 7 days, sometimes when we have friends in need or we have friends suffering, maybe they lost someone, the best thing that we could do is just pray for them and listen and sit with them. Because it says sometimes the best response is silence. So I that's true. And have you ever heard of people saying like, I don't know what to say. You're going through this and I don't know what to say. Just know that what you can say is, I may not know what to say, but our God is bigger than we are. And I'm going to pray for you and be your friend and sit here with you and be a person that you can lean on if you need. And so I just want to take that from today's reading.